Hey everybody, it's Jenny. This is going to be a little different than some of my funny videos, only because my spirit has been tugged on, what would God have me do over these times and weeks of being kind of locked up. Plenty of work to be done for sure, but what is my purpose in the next couple of weeks? How can I give back? I'm obviously not a medical person. I'm not in the front lines. I am doing my day-to-day routine, and it might be like you're doing your day-to-day routine and just waiting until they release us back to the world. And as we're on Monday, Thursday, and it's Holy Week, and we have lost the connectivity that we would have during Easter Sunday and Good Friday services, I just wanted to come and share a little thought with you as we progress through the weekend. Behind me is a picture of the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus prayed. One of the most significant prayers I think that he did that gave us a kind of insight into his humanness, where he pleaded with God, hey, I really don't want to go through this. And yet the most genuine and real part was, but not my will, your will. And right now, my will is definitely trying to scream out, I want out of this house. I want things to go back to normal. I want people to get jobs. I want to not keep seeing just this running death toll and this running cases of coronavirus on my television. And yeah, I was reminded about what was it like the moment right before Jesus was arrested, the moment right before Judas betrayed Jesus and Peter betrayed Jesus and denied him. Those moments in our lives, we have them throughout. I know for me, the moments and the days before I received word that my dad died, I look back on them and they could have been used in a completely different manner. I could have had more conversations with my dad. I could have called more. And we have those tendencies. When I lost a job, the moment right before, the day before, man, I wish I would have savored that. And so right now, I think we're in a moment of savoring our families, savoring the rest that can come with being locked up, and savoring the fact that we are tied to technology, but it hinders some of the connectivity, and that we might realize that a hug and a handshake and that face-to-face contact goes a long way in building relationships with each other and understanding the journey that each other is on. We can rely on text and we can rely on Facebook and Instagram and all of that to stay connected. But the real genuine relationships that are built on solid foundation require that physical presence. And so I was thinking about the walk that Jesus had to make from the upper room to the garden. And were some pictures I found interesting on the internet. And I just wanted to kind of show them to you briefly about the Kidron Valley. So if we think about, and we know our scripture, which most of you do, the Kidron Valley is basically leading from Mount Temple to the Mount of Olives. And so the temple set pretty high up, and then you walk through the Kidron Valley and then onto the garden. And so this is from about 1920s. So it's obviously not built up as much. And so this was a ceremony for the tomb, I believe, of Absalom. But this is just what the valley looks like. So we have the Mount of Olives. We have people gathered around. And then this is a more modern view that sometimes doesn't help us understand what it was like with Jesus, which is why I like the other picture. But here we have the Kidron Valley. And so the Mount Temple would be up here. And they would have come down this and had to cross over somehow this valley. And then we have the Garden of Gethsemane. And then up here we have the Mount of Olives. And so you look at this valley, and it's not some simple creek. It's not some easy thing to really just walk over. And There are studies that show us that during Passover, the priest would kill, 250,000 lambs, slaughter them for the Passover over during the season. And so they would brush the blood from the sacrifice out, and it would end up going down this valley and wash away in that regard. And so if we think about it, Jesus is coming from the temple, coming from the upper room, walking through and having to witness the real life sacrifice of lambs as he is preparing for the human sacrifice for us. And so he has to cross over, and I wonder what that moment was as he was walking across. Probably, he was kind of tuned out. Probably the disciples were chit-chatting, again, unaware of the moment that was going to take place hours later, and then the next day as Jesus would die. And then he walks to Gethsemane and spends time there. I just wonder those times that the disciples would say, hey, I should have savored that moment, that walk with Jesus. I should have talked to him. I should have not turned to Peter and be like, I told you I was going to be the one next to him, not you, and kind of share what really was going on. I know the disciples had an air about them, that they were sensing something in Jesus's mood that might have changed. But when we look at Luke and we look in the scriptures, and it says that Jesus, then accompanied by the disciples, Jesus left the upstairs room and went as usual to the Mountain of Olives. And that's in Luke 22:39. And then in John 18:1, it's when it mentions the Kidron Valley, and that he crosses back over. After saying these things, Jesus crossed the Kidron Valley with disciples and entered a grove of olive trees. And Judas the betrayer knew this place because Jesus had gone there often. And that we move on in the story that then Judas confronts Jesus. And so as you're sitting in quarantine, as you're sitting through some of the unknowns, maybe you've lost your job, maybe your hours have been cut, you've lost finances, maybe you're about ready to throw your kids out the window, whatever that might be, that you would think about what happens next. What would that next be that would be devastating for you, and what would you want to savor today? We have the ability to savor today. I can't savor yesterday and I can't savor tomorrow, but I can take the time to savor what's going on today and how I can embrace, even in the midst of my daily workload, the gifts of God through quietness, through my dogs, through my family, through friends, through laughter. Right now we need to laugh more, we need to smile more, and just know that the God of the universe was present during the slaughtering of his son, and he is present now, and he will always be present. And many times it's up to us to sit still and to not look about the future, not try to get to the next thing, but to savor the moment that's in front of us. And so I challenge you to do that. I hope you have a great holiday, or I don't really like calling it a holiday, but it is a long weekend. I hope you have a time that you spend just savoring what Jesus did for us, and the hope that that then provides for us when we go through things like this. So I wish you well. I wish you safety, and happy Easter.